Okay, question. Okay.
You sent to the House Oversight. On the event-related question, just curious if any of the artists had created something reflecting what the district is going through right now with the federal surge, and if they would care to speak on it.
I'm not aware of that. These projects have been going on a long time, so I would probably think not.
On the another question on the event, what do you think the turnout is going to be like, especially for art all night? That's something that's.
Rosemary, do you want to come and talk about if we have any indication of level of interest or registration, things like that?
Yep. As you know, Art All Night, this is our 14th year, and we have seen just as much excitement from our residents, our business owners. This year, we're September 6th through the 13th, we have Dine All Night that's going on, actually happening right now. We have over 80 restaurants participating. That's more than we've ever had. So, even with the federal surge, we have restaurant owners signing up to participate. We have people that are excited and looking forward to come out and celebrate Art All Night. Our app, we've had 1,700 folks downloaded as of yesterday. So again, we have over 300 activations, and family, friends, people of all ages are excited about coming out and participating.
Okay. Mayor, on the letter that you sent to Congress, I didn't want to ask.
On the what?
On the letter you sent to the House Oversight Chair.
She has a mic behind you, so I can stop saying on the what?
Thank you. There are a few items that you did specifically point out in your letter. I want to ask you why you chose those, and then separately, one of the items you didn't mention specifically on 14-year-olds possibly being charged as adults. Your thoughts on that item specifically?
Well, I didn't mention all of them. I at the start of the letter said we reject all the anti-home rule bills, so we don't support any of them save the one about electronic transmission, which the council has asked for many years. So we didn't focus on all of them. And if your question is, do I support for the 14-year-old, I do not.
Why do you pick those three specifically to highlight?
You know, I picked some, I didn't pick others, but I bucketed our concerns, and the ones that I did speak on, I think, are representative of those concerns. For example, what makes the district less efficient and effective, makes us less competitive, harder to do business here, and that is changing the congressional timelines on approving our bills. I can't tell you, and this is kind of inside baseball, the amount of uncertainty that creates in how we're able to be responsive to our citizens. So it's all burden and no benefit. And so there are other bills like that. I highlighted one that would make us, in my opinion, less safe. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around this notion of cash bails making us safer. We have a regime here about pretrial detention that we have recently strengthened in the law through Secure DC, and it was recently extended through the most recent crime bill that focuses on holding people pre-trial who are dangerous and who have demonstrated that. And I firmly believe that we're holding the right people pre-trial, and that's why we've seen the use of guns and violence go down in our city so precipitously over the last 2 years. I also focused on more on home rule agencies or things that I think would make us even less democratic, and that's talking about how we select judges. In most places, judges are either elected or somehow appointed by the local officials. Already, we don't have that. Already, the president appoints and the Senate confirms. But this Judicial Nomination Committee is appointed by me and other parts of our criminal justice system, and it works. The president just sent down 3 judges. At least one of them is in line to be Senate approved soon. We have a whole slew of appointments after that, so we think that works. And similarly, and that's a home rule chartered agency. And similarly, the elected attorney general's office is too. So we think the already tenuous limited home rule autonomy that we have shouldn't be upended by this Congress. Yep.
Sorry, Josh Chapin here at Channel 7. You know, the countdown clock is on, and the end of this emergency, as you've talked about. I just wondering what is the mission going forward, and sort of with the safety of the folks in D.C. in mind.
Well, our public safety mission doesn't change. What changes with the end of the emergency is the Home Rule Charter, Section 740, that allows the president and compels the mayor to provide MPD services. That doesn't change. I laid out a mayor's order a couple of weeks ago that highlights and lays out a framework for how the district will interact moving forward. Yes, Mark.
Mayor Bowser, could you be more specifically in how MPD is going to cooperate or coordinate with ICE? You've been very clear leading up to this that ICE is not mentioned in your mayor's order.
That's correct, and I'll reiterate that.
And D.C. police will go back to following D.C. law. Will D.C. police continue to cooperate and coordinate with ICE after the emergency expires?
That's not part of my mayor's order. Requires the pre-surge status quo, the pre-emergency status quo, and that's how we will proceed.
So what does that, I mean, will they continue to cooperate, or will they go, and for instance, the chief's executive order, will that be rescinded?
That's connected to the emergency, and the emergency's over today. Yep,
So,
next
again,
question.
Does that mean it'll be rescinded and they will stop cooperating as far as transporting ICE detainees?
That certainly wouldn't be my expectation, Mark.
And the White House released numbers today on more than 2,000 arrests in the past month. More than 900 of those the White House describes as illegal aliens. Do you think those numbers are correct? And what do you make of those numbers that they have not only taken more than 2,000 people off the street, but more than 900 people who appear to have been detained by ICE in just the past month off the streets of D.C.?
I cannot confirm numbers because those aren't coming through our system. I would say when I heard them, that seemed like it would have had to be greater than the district proper. That's kind of my first gut reaction. But again, we don't have all of those specifics, so they would have to come from the White House.
Mayor, when last week when you
Who's
were asked,
speaking?
this
I'm sorry.
is Campbell,
Okay, all right,
Roberts from the
gotcha.
Times. Last week when you were asked about the Attorney General's suit regarding the National Guard, you said, "Look, my focus is on getting out of the emergency 100%." Yep. Now that looks likely to happen, how is your posture toward the administration going to change?
What does that mean?
Forward? Meaning, you were saying, I'm not focused on the National Guard suit because I'm focused on the emergency. Do you think your involvement in litigation like that will change after tonight at midnight?
My concern, I've always laid out my concerns about federal troops policing American cities, especially ours. The D.C. Guard is different, as you know. The D.C. Guard is directed by the president. Out-of-state guard, I do think there's a legal question about it, and it has been from the very beginning. Yep.
Thanks, Mayor. First, just to clarify, through the emergency, did D.C. police and D.C. government's cooperation with ICE, was that limited to Chief Smith's executive order about information about people not in custody and transportation, or did it go beyond that?
I think you've asked me that question before, and I don't, because I can't be aware of every instance, so I can't answer that categorically, but I think that was what we've been requested.
And then just to follow up, you mentioned that it was your expectation just now that Chief Smith's executive order would be rescinded with the end of the emergency.
That's not what I said. What I said is it goes with the emergency, and the emergency is over.
What does that mean?
Just what I said.
So is it still in effect? Is that executive order still in effect? Will police continue to cooperate
Mark,
with people who are not in custody?
I've answered that question.
confused because
I'm not sure why you're confused,
Because
I've said it 5 different ways. And you can ask me a 6th way, and I'm not going to give you a 6th response. The status quo, and this is the last I'm going to say about it. I'm not going to take another question from you about it. The status quo is clear. It changed before the emergency. The presidential declaration compels the mayor to provide MPD services as requested by the president during the emergency for federal purposes. Immigration enforcement is such a service. Immigration enforcement is not what MPD does. And with the end of the emergency, it won't be what MPD does in the future. That's it. Yes. Yes.
Mayor Raphael with Channel 9. Have you heard from the federal government regarding your mayor's order? Because obviously you've outlined ICE is not included, but we know Attorney General Pam Bondi kind of prioritized immigration enforcement. And second, have the feds given you a rollout plan? You've laid one out, but have they given you one of when they plan to kind of retract their federal agents from the district?
Federal police officers are going to be in the district, okay? Federal police officers can enhance the public safety mission of MPD. So federal police officers will be in the district. Any other officers that the federal government uses could be in the district, but not with MPD.
Just the second part, have you heard back from the White House regarding your mayoral order that doesn't include ICE moving forward?
Yes.
Care to tell us what they said about it?
I mean, I think from the Congress and the administration, and I'm talking like people see this framework as a workable framework to get us out of the emergency, as evidenced by the fact that the president didn't try to move a new emergency, and the Congress is not moving to extend the emergency, which they have every power to do. So the framework, my framework, is that path. Yes.
Hi, Elizabeth Thomas, ABC News. In light of your ongoing efforts to enrich the arts in D.C., can we get your thoughts on the new leadership at the Kennedy Center amid, reportedly low ticket sales and high turnover of employees?
I haven't been entirely focused on that. Obviously, the Kennedy Center is an incredible asset to the district. It belongs to the nation, of course, but it is an incredible asset to the district. I sit on the board as I don't know what they call it. I'm a non-voting board member, let me put it that way. And I participate, my team participates in those meetings. And we are, of course, concerned that people from our area, from across the nation, continue to see the Kennedy Center as a place to experience the arts. So I can't be more detailed with you than that because I haven't been recently updated, but we are actively participate on the board. Yep.
Beatrice Peterson, ABC News. My understanding is you may have met with Attorney General Pam Bondi yesterday or sometime this week. Can you tell me a little bit about that meeting?
No.
Okay. All right, and a second question. The Washington Post earlier posted a article saying that internal National Guard assessments warn that the deployment in D.C. during the federal surge may have eroded public trust in the military. Any thoughts on that?
I'm not familiar. I haven't read, I just saw a blurb about that, so I haven't read the article that you're talking about. But let me be clear, when we're talking about the Guard, we're not talking about the Guardsmen and airmen and women. I think we question, as we should, the authority that they have, who they work for, if they're doing law enforcement. The Guardsmen are on orders, especially our D.C. Guard, who I call on in emergencies all the time. So I do think there is a distinction in the public about these individual Americans who are away from their family serving, and if they should be. And that's a question for political people, and legal analysis. Like, now DC's a special case. The DC Guard reports to who? Anybody know? The president, not the mayor-governor. There is a bill, the Congress can change it, to say that the DC Guard reports to the mayor, which is what we think should happen. We think for public safety reasons it's more important. But until that changes, or until we become the 51st state, that's the issue.
Have you had any conversations with the White House or any officials in the administration about changing that? Or pressuring Congress to change that?
I don't recall any recent conversations about changing the law around the National Guard, but every time I'm at the Congress, I have that conversation. Yes.
Speak to the Guard just a little bit. I know that this is a unique circumstance. We know certainly that the DC Guard reports to the president, but can you give people, and maybe you don't know, but any expectation as to whether they're going to continue to see the Guard here? We know that their orders have been extended through November. Any sense of whether the folks from Ohio or South Carolina, those Guard are going to hang around, and what the DC Guard might be doing through November? Are they still going to be outside the Smithsonian Metro Station?
Okay, I'm sorry. That was a long. What's my expectation about the drawdown of the Guard?
Where do you see the Guard? Do you think that there's people are going to walk out of the Smithsonian Metro and still see the Guard there, maybe at least the DC National Guard for a while? We know their orders were extended a little bit.
Yeah, so I think that the question about the litigation involving the out-of-state Guard is important, and it may mean that they stay longer, frankly. I don't know the answer to that. But I do think kind of my sense is that people will get weary. Guardsmen, the states where people have left, they will get weary, and they will want to know that they are serving their mission. And I think that there's going to be a useful life of such a deployment in the district, and I think that useful life is coming to an end. Final question. Yes.
You've mentioned before that one of the most unfortunate consequences of this 30-day period is a fraying of trust between community and police, particularly immigrant communities. And now that this is winding down, at least this portion, the part that compels you to provide MPD services,
Yes.
What will you and your administration be doing to try and rebuild that trust, reassure people?
Well, I can assure you we're going to do everything possible. I don't know that there's one thing, and I don't know that it is a one-and-done thing. I think that building community trust is a long-term commitment that we have in the district. Thank you.